Hi, this is David Swanson at Democrats.com and AfterDowningstreet.org and ImpeachCheney.org. And the question today, as every day, is it too late for impeachment? And you know, this question began to come up in January of 2007. And I said, no, what do you mean it's too late for impeachment? We just elected a Congress specifically to accomplish this. We have 2 full years ahead of us. Of course not. And then it got to be spring and summer and nothing happening and impeachment off the table and clearly nothing else for Congress to do, and yet started to look like maybe, and I had to say no. It was not too late. And yet here we are now in the spring of 2008, and the question arises again, and I have to answer, hell no, are you crazy? The point is to establish that future presidents and vice presidents must obey laws. It is never too late for that. It won't be too late after Bush and Cheney are out of office if we can do it, and we certainly should do it. And we could not remove them from office, but we could enforce the other penalty that can accompany an impeachment and a conviction in the Senate, and that is barring them from ever holding public office again. But more importantly, again, the point is to establish for future administrations that they must obey laws. And you could say, well, no, we're guaranteed to have a good administration this time. Well, I'm not talking about this time. I'm talking about this time and the next time and the next time and the next time and 30 years from now. And the precedent we are establishing that presidents and vice presidents need not obey any laws, and what that can mean. And if you're a Republican, think about what that means if we do have a Democratic administration and they have the power to spy without warrant and detain without charge and torture and murder and rewrite every law passed by Congress at their whim. Think about that. Think about whether you want to establish that precedent. But then there's the question of the 9.5 months facing us right now, during which we will pretend each and every day that the new president is appearing tomorrow. But it won't be true for another 9.5 months, longer than anybody is pregnant. This is the period of time we're talking about. It actually exists. And we may see an attack on Iran. We will almost certainly see 9.5 more months of occupying Iraq, and the slaughter that comes with that, and the hatred that it builds for our nation around the world. The danger that it puts all of us in. The deaths primarily of Iraqis, but the deaths also of U.S. servicemen and women. 9.5 more months of it. Hundreds of billions of more dollars of our grandchildren's money that they will have to pay back to China someday. We can prevent that only with impeachment. And there is nothing else for Congress to do. So if you say it's too late for impeachment, you have to be clear in your mind that you are saying it is too late for anything. That we are simply going to wait out the next 9.5 months of disaster. We're going to throw away this remaining bit of the 2 years we are throwing away. We're not going to address global warming, although we have a limited number of years left in which to do so. We're not going to address anything. Because for those who haven't yet figured it out, any good bill passed by this Congress is vetoed. Any mixed bill is signing statemented, and any horrendous bill becomes law. That's what we're up against. So there is nothing else to do except that key step that involves not doing something. And that is to not fund the occupation of Iraq. Other than that, impeachment is the whole game. It's that or nothing. It's not a choice. And in fact, if you look back through history and you see the way in which the move toward impeachment in Congress helped under President Richard Nixon to get other things accomplished, to put the White House on the defensive, to allow Congress to move legislation, accomplish other goals. Maybe it's impeachment plus, but it's certainly not anything if not impeachment. And you know, this is one of those impeachments, like most impeachments, that will be very, very quick. The House Judiciary Committee passed an article of impeachment against Richard Nixon for refusing to comply with a subpoena. Bush and Cheney have done that. Bush has feloniously ordered former staffers to refuse to comply with subpoenas. These people refuse to comply with subpoenas on almost a weekly basis. Simply open the impeachment hearings, close them, and impeach. Open the impeachment hearings and play the videotape of Bush confessing to violation of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and therefore of our Fourth Amendment. Close the hearings and impeach. There are dozens of open and shut impeachable offenses for Bush and Cheney. No lengthy investigation, no determination of evidence, no findings, no expense, and no time are needed. It's open and shut if you want to do it. There might be reasons to drag out the hearings, to put the information on television, so be it. But it's not a question of us not having the time or the money to restore our Constitution. And you know what? If you're focused on the election, if you're even making a really serious argument that much as we'd like to have impeachment, it looks difficult, we know we're going to have an election, let's put our energies, let's focus on trying to get the best outcome from that election, then let's see what we can do. If you're making that argument, think about this. Through the course of 230 years, it has proved electorally disastrous not to bring impeachment when clearly merited. When the Democrats made the same argument that they are making now under President Ronald Reagan when they said, let's rig the Iran-Contra hearings to avoid impeachment, let's keep impeachment off the table so that we can focus on the elections. They lost the elections because refusing to stand up, to play your part, to have a spine, to defend the Constitution against enemies domestic is not popular with the American public. But you know what would be? Hold impeachment hearings on the worst issues for John McCain. Now, this is not my goal. I want impeachment in order to have a democracy for future generations. I want impeachment in order to restore the rule of law to Washington, D.C. I think doing that is far more important than what president has to obey those laws for the next 4 years. But if your focus is on John McCain, what would happen? Picture this. What would happen if we held impeachment hearings on torture and John McCain had to defend torture, defend his party's president and vice president against charges of torture, while promising never to commit it, while reviewing his crusade to recriminalize it as if it had ever been legal, and his silence when Bush signing statemented it, and his push again, and then his applause for Bush's veto of yet another recriminalization of torture. This would be disastrous. Make the hearing on signing statements too while you're at it. Have a hearing on warrantless spying. Let John McCain promise never to spy on us without a warrant while defending Bush and Cheney's right to have done so. Absolute goldmine for a political party capable of thinking offense. Thus far, the Democrats have proved only capable of thinking defense, and that can be the worst offense.